There is no way this Manchester City attack is real.
Big touch there by Shirky, Aït-Nouri, and Shirky! A killer blow!
Start with Haaland, 20 goals in 21 games. His expected goals are already past 18.
Pulls off Euro. Haaland is in and he scores! And that's the double of the lead!
He's basically living in the opposition box, taking shot after shot. But here's the thing, he doesn't even need to touch the ball to mess with defenses. They're so scared of him that they're already repositioning before the pass even comes. And when you zoom out, it gets even more ridiculous. Doku is out there terrorizing fullbacks like it's a personal mission. 99 dribbles this season already. That's not a typo. He isolates defenders one-on-one and they just can't handle it. First challenge, they're done. Foden's quietly floating into the box, scoring 7 league goals while also creating chances for everyone else.
By a long way, but he picks himself up and he wants the hat-trick! Oh, he got it!
Then there's Bernardo, almost 1,000 passes completed at 90% accuracy. He controls the tempo when City have the ball, then turns into a pressing monster when they don't. And this isn't just names on a team sheet. Yesterday, in a Carabao Cup semi-final first leg, a match meant to define City's path to Wembley, Manchester City rotated, not out of necessity, out of choice. Key attackers were held back, control never dropped, the threat never faded, goals still came. Wanna know the scary part? Look at who's on the bench. Cherky ready to come on and shift the entire game. Right genders waiting to drive forward with the ball. Players that other teams would build their whole attack around, just sitting there, waiting. And then there's the final piece, the one saved for last, the one who arrived and started scoring immediately. Antoine Semenyo, already delivering in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. Physical, vertical, decisive. A player who hasn't even opened his Premier League account for City yet and is already influencing knockout ties. This isn't depth anymore, it's something else entirely. Defending against City isn't about stopping one player, it's about trying to survive wave after wave until the final whistle. Let me explain what I mean. What City have built isn't about waiting for one moment of brilliance, one striker going nuclear, or one winger doing something unstoppable. It's a machine. The system itself creates advantages again and again until the defense just breaks. Look at their last 2 cup games. The 10-1 thrashing of Exeter in the FA Cup, the 2-0 away win at Newcastle in the Carabao semi-final. Yeah, City had better players, but that's not why they won. They won because they kept doing the same things over and over, and it kept working. Overloads, cutbacks, winning second balls, waves of pressure that never stop, and even after you clear the first attack. City might line up in a standard 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 on the team sheet, but once the game starts, Guardiola turns the pitch into zones that make sense for them. The back line becomes a 3 in build-up, one fullback tucks inside, or a midfielder drops deep to give them stability. 2 pivots in midfield keep the ball moving quickly and protect against counters. 5 attackers up top pin the opposition back line, stretch the width, and find pockets of space between fullback and center back. That 3-2-5 shape is why it feels unfair. Press high, you leave space behind. Sit deep, you're trapped in your own box getting pummeled. Newcastle tried to find a middle ground, pressing in moments, then dropping off, and City still controlled possession and chances. That 10-1 against Exeter wasn't just a big scoreline. It was proof that City's attacking blueprint works even with rotation and academy kids playing. The numbers tell the story. 72% possession, 2.24 XG, 21 shots, 10 on target, complete territorial control without needing chaos or back and forth madness. Fun fact, it was the first time one of Pep's teams ever scored 10+ goals in a competitive match. But here's what matters for us. Exeter were outmatched, sure, but City didn't just freestyle their way to 10 goals. They repeated a pattern, pinned the defense with high positions, moved the ball fast enough that defenders can't step out, create an overload wide, then either cut it back or recycle for a second wave. Counter press immediately when you lose it so they never get a break. That second wave thing is the silent killer. Most teams can build one good attack. City build one, then win the ball back within seconds, then attack again while the defense is still scrambling. Even City's own messaging from that game was about relentless energy, pressing and respecting the opponent all the way through. Newcastle away is a completely different challenge. Intensity, atmosphere, physical duels, transitions. City didn't try to blow them away. They did what Pep's teams always do when the game gets serious. Kill the stadium with patient possession in the first half. Wait for moments when Newcastle's midfield gets stretched. Attack the same spaces over and over until something breaks. The stats back it up. 57.5% possession. Not crazy high, but enough to control things. 11 shots to Newcastle's 10, 4 on target to their 3. Not a siege. A managed away performance. The goals came from what City do best. Build wide, create a quality chance, then capitalize late when the opponent pushes forward desperately. And here's where the work rate matters, not as some stat, but as a mentality. After that disallowed goal in the long VAR check, the game could have flipped emotionally. Newcastle had their moments, hit the woodwork, crowd roaring, some half chances. City's response wasn't panic, it was structure. Keep tight distances between the lines. Press immediately after turnovers. Possess smartly to drain the clock, then execute cleanly when the opening comes. That's the Guardiola blueprint in knockout games. Don't give them repeated transition chances, and don't let the match turn into a coin flip. This is what separates them from most high-scoring teams. A lot of attacks are based on win this duel, create something, swing a cross in and pray. City's attack is based on manufactured 1v1s, pre-planned zone occupation, positional support for rebounds and second balls, a counter press that turns losses into instant attacks. That's why it feels like you're always defending against them. Even when you win the ball, they're already set to win it back, and when they do win it back, they're already in dangerous areas because their spacing is designed to put bodies around the box, not spread 40 yards apart. So when we say this attack isn't real, we're not just talking about talent. We're talking about an ecosystem where attackers get better service, more repeat chances, and more broken defenses to run at. The last 2 matches proved it perfectly. Exeter showed the system can flood the scoreboard even with rotation and new faces. Newcastle showed the system holds up under pressure, away from home, in a semi-final where control beats flair. Now for the fun part, breaking down the actual weapons, because the system is what makes every individual even more dangerous. Now that you understand the system, let's talk about the actual players, because every single one of them is positioned in exactly the right spot to maximize what they're already good at, while the team structure covers their weaknesses. This didn't happen by accident. This is deliberate. Everything starts with Haaland. Seriously, everything. His Premier League stats alone explain why teams are terrified before kickoff. 20 goals in 21 games, 18.52 XG, 133 touches in the opposition box. That last number is massive. City don't ask Haaland to drop deep, link up endlessly, or create his own magic. They ask him to stay in the box and occupy defenders constantly, and it works like a charm. Even in games where he's not scoring freely, Haaland changes how the entire defense plays. Center backs drop deeper, fullbacks think twice before stepping up, midfielders have to track runners instead of pressing the ball. That one adjustment opens up space everywhere else. Oh, and 30 shots on target. Inside the box, that tells you everything. City are constantly feeding him quality chances. He doesn't need miracle finishes. The system gives him volume, positioning, and support. Then there's Doku, and he's not just some flashy entertainer squeezed into a rigid system. He's the weapon the system uses to break you. This season, 99 dribbles attempted, 60% success rate, 115 touches in the opposition box, 4 assists, 4.37 XA. These aren't random take-ons for show. They're calculated isolations. City deliberately pinned the opposing fullback and near side center back, then released Doku into space with nobody to help. What happens? Defenders are stuck in 1v1s with no backup, lose once, and the whole defensive shape crumbles. Even when Doku doesn't directly create a goal, he distorts the structure enough for cutbacks, rebounds, and second chances. That's why Pep doesn't care if his goal numbers are low. Doku's job is to break the structure, not pad his stats. While Doku's tearing apart the wide areas, Foden is doing something equally dangerous in those tight spaces between the lines. 7 league goals from midfield positions. 507 XG, 3.45 XA, 65 box touches, 11 shots. On target from outside the box. He doesn't stay wide, he doesn't stay high. He arrives late, perfectly timed to capitalize on the chaos Haaland and Doku create. What makes Foden lethal is that he does 2 things at once. When City have the ball, he's a finisher and playmaker in the half spaces. When they don't, he's an aggressive presser, keeping City's counter press alive. His 88% pass completion across nearly 900 passes shows how mature his game has become. become. He's not just talented anymore. He's controlled and clinical. And holding all of this together, that's Bernardo Silva. He doesn't get the headlines. He doesn't need them. Nearly 1,000 completed passes at 90% accuracy, 1,501 minutes played, 20 tackles, 12 interceptions. His presence is why City can push 5 players forward without getting caught on the counter. When possession turns over, Bernardo's already in position to shut down transitions. In attack, he does the unglamorous work, recycles possession under pressure, drags markers out of position, lets others take the risky chances. This is why City can commit so many bodies forward without being vulnerable defensively. Bernardo's the hinge that makes it all work. Now here's where it gets cruel. Most teams think survive the first 60 minutes and maybe they'll tire out. Then Cherki comes on. 7 assists, 5.08 XA, 55 dribbles, 85% pass accuracy, all in under 900 minutes. Cherki attacks exhausted legs with fresh creativity. He shoots from distance, threads balls through tight spaces, and forces late saves. This is psychological torture. You survive the starters, then you have to deal with a completely different creative threat with fresh legs and zero fear. And if that's not enough, there's Ray Yanders, giving City something subtle but devastating. Forward momentum from midfield, 5 goals, 3.65 xSG, 55 box touches, 89% pass completion. He drives through pressure, collapses defensive blocks, and releases attackers at speed. When teams sit deep trying to survive the first wave, Ray Yanders forces them backward again. He turns possession into penetration. But wait, there's one more. The final piece that makes this whole thing feel unfair. Semenyo hasn't even scored a Premier League goal for City yet, and he's already changing knockout games. 10 goals, 3 assists, 121 duels won, 46 aerial duels, 91 box touches across all competitions before joining City, and immediate impact in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. What makes Semenyo dangerous is that he's different. He's direct when others are technical, physical when others are smooth, vertical when others are patient. When opponents finally adjust to City's passing patterns, Semenyo gives them a completely different problem: pace, power, and physical dominance. He doesn't replace anyone. He just adds a new layer of difficulty. Here's what opponents are actually dealing with. Stop Haaland, space opens up everywhere else. Shut down Doku, you lose control of the half spaces. Track Foden, Bernardo controls the game's rhythm. Survive the starters, Cherki or Ray Yanders comes on fresh. Adjust to the structure, Semenyo brings a different kind of chaos. This isn't depth, this is wave after wave after wave. And now you see why defending against Manchester City isn't about solving a tactical puzzle. It's about trying to survive until the final whistle, and most teams just can't. Here's what people get wrong when they talk about City's depth. Depth isn't just having more names on the roster, it's having multiple ways to score, multiple ways to control games, and multiple ways to win matches in the same week without running your best players into the ground. And right now, City are in the exact position where that becomes a massive competitive advantage, not just a luxury. In the Premier League, they're second after 21 games with 43 points, 45 goals scored, 19 conceded. They're right there in the title race, 6 points behind Arsenal on 49. In the Champions League, they're sitting 4th in the league phase table with 13 points from 6 games, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. So this season isn't a victory lap, it's a grind on multiple fronts. And that's exactly where City's depth starts deciding who wins trophies. The Newcastle semi-final first leg is the perfect example. City didn't overwhelm them with 25 shots. They won with timing and execution. A move that ends with a tap-in for the opener. A late clean team goal that kills the tie emotionally. That's what being clinical looks like at the elite level. Not 30 shots hoping one goes in, but 2 moments executed by a team that expects to score. The most important detail? Look at who delivered those moments. The first goal came from a new forward finishing a simple, high-value chance. The second was scored by a substitute after a sequence involving multiple rotated players combining at speed. That's depth turning into inevitability. Title races are rarely won by your best 11 playing every game. They're won by what happens in the 3rd game in 7 days, the away fixture after a midweek European match, the routine league game that becomes a trap. City's recent league form tells the story. Their last 5 results show WWDDD. That suggests tight margins right now. They're not steamrolling everyone every week. The Champions League doesn't reward volume like the league does. It rewards control in hostile away matches, smart decisions in the final 30 minutes, substitutions that change the rhythm. City's position 4th with 13 points puts them in strong shape for the knockouts. But once you hit knockout ties, the decisive moments often come late. That's exactly where City's attacking depth becomes a tactical weapon. Start with one attacking structure that keeps control, then introduce a closer, fresh creativity, fresh ball carrying, fresh legs. We just saw it at Newcastle. A late substitute goal after City kept the game under control structurally. In European knockout ties, that pattern is gold. It reduces chaos. A lot of teams have to choose. City don't. Look at the fixture list coming up. Manchester United, John 17, Bodo, Glimt. John 20, UCL, Wolves. John 24, Galatasaray, John 28, UCL. Tottenham, Feb 1, Newcastle, Feb 4, Carabao semi-second leg. That schedule is brutal. Different opponents, different tactical demands, barely any recovery time. This is where depth becomes visible. City can chase the Carabao and FA Cup without treating league matches like throwaway games because rotation doesn't equal weakening. It equals specializing for each opponent. The Newcastle first leg proved it. Even with rotation, City still had high-level wide play, creating clean chances, elite bench impact to finish the tie properly. That's how you win cup competitions while keeping pace in the league. The real advantage City have isn't just options, it's how well those options fit together. You can see it in the Newcastle goals. Wide service into a high-value finishing zone, then a late multiplayer move where nobody freezes or forces a bad shot. They keep linking until the chance is clean. That's chemistry by design. One profile stretches the pitch wide, another pins center backs, another arrives late in the half space, another gives you the physical or chaotic run when the game tightens. When you can swap one attacker for another and still keep the same spacing principles, that's when the schedule starts feeling manageable. Not because opponents are weak, but because City can always present a new problem without losing their structure. City are in a Premier League title chase, second 43 points, well positioned in the Champions League, fourth in the league phase, 2 goals up in a Carabao semi-final after winning. It's away, still able to rotate through domestic cups without their attack losing bite. That combination is exactly why this attacking depth matters. It doesn't just win you individual matches, it wins you the calendar, and the calendar is what wins trophies. This is the difference between a strong team and a title-winning one. Manchester City are no longer approaching the season as a series of problems to solve. They're approaching it as a sequence of opportunities to rotate, refresh, and overwhelm. The depth of this attack doesn't just raise the ceiling, it lowers the difficulty of the calendar itself. When you can rest key attackers without losing threat, introduce quality without losing structure, and finish matches with more firepower than you started them with, pressure shifts. It moves off Manchester City and onto everyone else. And that's why, across the Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup, Manchester City don't look like contenders chasing success. They look like a team engineered to collect it.